Hey, this is Russell, and I work at the video store, the place that you can go to every week when it's movie night. On days like today, we have our interesting customers pop in to rent something. We talk about the exciting things that they have going on in their lives, and we're always keen to hear what films that they've loved across their life. All right, let's do it. Let's open up the shop.
Did you see that thing yesterday on the TV? It was ready, interesting!
How's it? Welcome to the video store. Thank you for wandering into our lovely video store. My name is Russell. I am the owner of the Bioscope, an independent cinema here in Johannesburg. We're not working behind the counter of this lovely video store. Today it's just me, and I just want to give a really quick intro to today. We've got ourselves a very exciting guest episode. Today on the show, the director behind the ABC Killer is popping in. This is a gentleman by the name of Jasyn Howes, and this is a new and exciting docuseries which is hitting Showmax on the day that this episode is coming out. So on the 22nd of July, you will be able to stream all 3 episodes of the ABC Killer. This is a true crime docuseries about South Africa's most infamous and famous serial killer, Moses Sithole. So I'm very excited to meet Jasyn. I've got a sneaky suspicion I know him from somewhere, but I haven't been able to work it out. But he's going to come in a moment, and we're going to talk everything with regards to the ABC Killer, Showmax, how one makes this kind of product, and also I'm always interested in hearing what kind of films and what kind of things he's been enjoying at the moment, what films he could return, and some of the films that he's loved across his life. So let's get into that. This is Jasyn Howes popping in to rent something. How's it?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, cool, man. It's Jasyn, hey?
Yeah, it is. It is. Your name again?
I'm Russell.
Russell. Hey, Russell.
You've got a very cool spelling of your name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only cool if it is pronounced correctly. Otherwise, it just gets butchered by Afrikaans people.
What do you get? Jasyn.
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 I get Jasyn a lot.
What?
I know it gets phonetically destroyed by Afrikaans people, even though it's phonetically correct in English.
Yeah.
It just gets like completely manhandled by their language. But
where does that come from? What is that?
My mom wanting to be different. Really, that's the long and short of it. No special place.
The good people at Showmax got us in touch because you've got a very exciting, very cool docu-series that is.
Yes, that's right.
On the day that this episode is coming out is when it will be released on Showmax.
Oh wow, that's on the 22nd of July.
Yes. So we're going to time
Awesome.
it. We're going to time it professionally.
Awesome.
And it is called the ABC Killer.
Yeah, it's called the ABC Killer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really want to get into it because I am old enough to have remembered that time. I actually don't always remember him as the ABC Killer, but I know Moses Sithole as like our big serial killer.
Yeah, no, he was definitely the most famous of all the serial killers in South Africa, I think, because of, I suppose, where he was killing, when he was killing, how many he killed, etc., etc. You know, he kind of ticked a lot of major boxes. Being in a major metropole with a major body count at a major time in South Africa's history. You know, all eyes was on South Africa at that point. So, yeah, we were kind of, we had multiple reasons for people to care about what we were up to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'd actually never joined that dot. It was 1994. So it was...
Well, 94, 95. So, yeah, we became a democracy, but then also we had the whole, like, we were opening up to the rest of the world, and we had the Rugby World Cup happening. So there was a lot of eyes on the new South Africa and, like, what was going to come from this new democracy. And it was also an opportunity in this particular instance to prove that we were, one, a truly changed nation in terms of policing and how we served communities, and two, that, what kind of detective work were we capable of, and we really did shine in terms of, showing that we had the skills to solve very complex crimes.
Yeah. Because he was eventually caught. And it's
Yes.
crazy to think that this bro is still alive. He's in like Bloom.
No,
Is he
no,
now?
he's not. He's moved around a bit.
Okay.
He started his sentence in Pretoria, at CMAX in Pretoria, and then he ended up at Mangoon, which is the privately run prison in Bloemfontein, and then at some point moved to Limpopo, and then that particular prison, actually there was a bad fire there, and so they moved a lot of the prisoners to different places, and I think he now resides in a prison in Mpumalanga.
Did you have any personal interaction with him?
I had one relatively brief phone call with him after spending a bit of time trying to track him down with the help of some other investigative journalists. And it was a brief, but I suppose interesting conversation. I'd hoped that we would speak more, but after that conversation, he got spooked, I think. And
Okay. What do you think? What do you think spooked him?
well, I mean, first and foremost, I came out of nowhere. Imagine him receiving a phone call from somebody he had no knowledge of was obviously already a red flag. I was asking some questions that really did dig up the past, and I was asking for permissions to use certain pieces of archive, that had existed between him and another psychologist he had spent some time with about 21 years ago. And I suppose, I did also mention a name of another author that he had a tie to, and I think that rubbed him up the wrong way, and he ended up contacting that author, and I spoke to the author, and it got a little bit crazy. But I think he just wanted to hide away, right? I don't think he saw this as an opportunity to share his story. I think it was more going to be an expose on who he was, kind of bringing up the past, digging it all up, and reminding people of the bad man that he is.
Okay, interesting. So you get the sense that he actually just wants to disappear. He doesn't want more notoriety or.
Well, he did ask me one question. He was like, "How is this going to change the way people see me?" And already that tells you that on some level he is hopeful that there's an opportunity for forgiveness, reform, and that he would have served his sentence and earned sort of the respect of the people back. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but
it's wild because his sentence. It's not just like, it was one afternoon and I lost my mind or I was going through a little bad patch. Like this is, he was convicted of as many as 38 odd.
38 murders now.
And in that one call he made while he was still at large, he admitted to even more, like double the amount.
Yeah, I think it was about 72 or something like that. Yeah, it's so hard to tell because, again, the way the system works in South Africa is that, you can claim to have killed 72 people, but unless they can prove it with evidence, sure. So he may well have done it, but just evidence wasn't there to kind of link him. Because I think there was over 100 dockets brought into the trial, and he was only convicted of 38. Wow. So, it's a very difficult task. The legal system requires,
sure.
Substantial evidence to convict on all charges.
But at that point, apart from justice for the families of those remaining, he's only eligible for parole when he turns like 900 or something. So it's like, he'll never ever get out.
Well, it was, Judge Kerr Lewis who passed the sentence. He wanted to make a statement with this particular case. It was fresh after the death sentence had been removed. And he felt that was a big mistake, that the death sentence shouldn't have been removed because in cases like this, it was absolutely warranted.
Yeah.
And so his idea was that, okay, the only way that I can truly, serve justice here is by making sure that you don't serve your life sentences concurrently, and that they're served back to back, which is why he stacked up 2,410 years as a sentence. But it's interesting because his legal representation, advocates at the time, he was very surprised by the judge's move. He found it unlawful, actually, that he had imposed such a severe sentence, because he's of the belief, and I suppose the legal system's of the belief, that everyone has the right to rehabilitation. Everyone has the right to a second chance, right? Through the system. That's the point of being incarcerated, is that you come out on the other side able to go back into society, a rehabilitated person. And he was convinced that he would be able to, with launching an appeal, that he'd be able to get it reduced. He was convinced, but for whatever reason, Sithole denied the opportunity at that point to launch an appeal, which came to such a surprise to his lawyer, because his lawyer was like, he put in a lot of work and effort into trying to, put together this substantial appeal so that they could take it to the appeals court in Bloemfontein.
Oh, but he denied it himself.
He denied it. The story that was told, which we didn't feature in the documentary, but we could have, but we ultimately pulled it up, was that soon after he went to prison, his lawyer started working on this appeal, right? And then at some point he visited Sithole and said, listen, I've put together all the documentation and stuff. I feel very positive that we can get a reduced sentence. All I need you to do is to agree. And Sithole hesitated a response, and then asked to make a phone call to somebody no one knows. No one knows who he spoke to, but he spoke to someone. And when he came back, he decided that he didn't want to do it.
Interesting, eh?
I know, it's fascinating. Who was that person, right? Who was that person that he spoke to? And I never got a chance to ask him. I've process of elimination. There was also talk of a person that was showing up during the trial, a young white guy, who I believe was in the law faculty at University of Witwatersrand, and he showed a very keen interest on the case and in Sithole, and was seen speaking to Sithole sort of privately on multiple occasions. And even Sithole's lawyer never got to meet him, but has this vivid memory of this person. And maybe it was this person. I don't know. I don't know who this person was. It's a bit of a mystery, man. So it's a very interesting turn of events, really.
When you talk about like how he wanted to be seen, how did you want to show him? What was your approach?
Well, with this one, I decided that because with the previous series, the approach that I took was a real deep dive into the person, his past, his traumas,
This was Boetie Boer.
Yeah, that's correct. And so there was, there I really wanted to give quite a balanced view on the person, from personal accounts, not just to paint them as a monster, that's quite one-dimensional. There's always more to people, and there's reasons why they become what they become. But in the case of Sithole, I felt that I wanted to avoid that. My entry points into the story was largely from the perspective of this journalist that spoke to him on the phone. That was kind of how we launched into the narrative. And I felt that, I wanted him to have this more of a mysterious sort of element to him, where you didn't fully understand where he came from. You were just exposed to what he did. And, I think, not that I don't know where he came from. I do have some knowledge of his backstory. But I just felt that in such an extreme case, and in the case that he didn't, with Boetie Boer, Stuart Wilkin killed in largely at night. He targeted vulnerable women and children that were living on the streets or prostitutes, etc. And he was not sober-minded when he did it. Now, I'm not saying that justifies anything that he did, but what I'm saying is he required drugs, alcohol, whatnot, in order to feel strong and courageous enough to do what he did.
Okay.
Whereas Sithole was a different animal completely. He took his time with a lot of his victims. There were sometimes he would meet them on the one day and only reconnect with them a few days later and then commit the deed.
Yeah.
He was the kind of person that largely killed during the day and mostly during the morning.
Interesting.
Which is it's different. And he was sober-minded.
He was
Very
running
different.
he'd started like almost like a charity, right? Or he had
Yeah,
like
I
a
mean,
shelter or something, and
he was an interesting character in the sense that his sort of his double life was that he had this sort of what appeared to be a genuine interest in helping impoverished children that were living on the streets. In every community that he lived in, he played an active role in, youth development stuff, whether it was on the sports field or whatever it was. Even in the church, he was even part of a choir at one point. He was a choir singer.
interesting.
And so I do believe that this was a genuine pursuit for him. I feel like it wasn't something that he was using as a front, but it obviously did at some point allow him access to more victims just by virtue of being able to go into these spaces and meet people seeking opportunity, etc. And yeah, so he did at one point actually register a nonprofit, children against, I think it's children against child, or something
Something
against
about
child
child
abuse or something.
abuse, yeah.
Yeah. And he that was like a registered entity as far as I can understand. And at some point was seeking to get, trying to find private funding for it as well. So going to like private
Wow.
organizations and to apply for funding. And that was actually what led to his ultimate capture, was that he ended up at a orphanage in Benoni, and he had approached a company in Pretoria, and he'd kept a piece of paper from them, and that piece of paper ended up becoming the key clue in tracking down his whereabouts. Because the name of that company led the detectives to go and investigate that specific space, which then sort of, everything started to unravel
Wow.
from there.
You spoke earlier now of, I think this is how you said you wanted to kick things off, which was the call he made to the journalist.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same thing, which is that at the height of his sort of
Yeah.
notoriety and he hadn't been caught, he phoned a journalist to admit and sort of confirm himself. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So what had happened is, it had been going on for about a year, and he'd been moving to different kill sites around Gauteng. And in that time, there had been other people that had been arrested under the assumption that they were the killer. They were suspected. There were other people that came forward pretending to be him.
But we hadn't got a name at this point, hey? We hadn't gotten
No,
Moses
there was
Sithole
no
yet.
name. The only name that was, and I won't say the name now because I want people to watch the episode and see it
Yeah.
for themselves, but there was somebody that was named at some points in late 94 and then was brought in for questioning. And he was actually an African, a foreigner. He was from Mozambique. And he ended up getting killed in custody. And they thought they had their man, but then the killings continued. So, yeah, it's interesting because, there was a couple people that, that they thought they'd gotten their man, but they were completely wrong. They were completely wrong. And he almost felt a need to kind of say, listen, you've got the wrong people, because there was also at that point an assumption that what the police were doing, or certain precincts were doing, is they were tracking people down based on the identikits, and they were using torture methods to try and extract confessions from them, which was very common coming out of the apartheid era. And so he was basically saying, like, you stop torturing these random people. You've got the wrong people. The police are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. I'm the man. I'm the most wanted man. And it was a way of kind of announcing to the police and to the world that, that this is the real killer and that the police don't know what they're doing.
Wild. You had to fill in a lot of gaps and you had to do a lot of recreations, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
To-
in this particular instance, it wasn't about gap filling really. In Buti it definitely was, because there was so little archive. In any documentary, your best friend is archival, right?
Yeah.
What can you visually show people that's factual, that brings something visual to what you're talking about, right? So whether it's newspaper clippings, whether it's video archive, audio archive, whatever it was. And in the case of Buti, it was very limited.
Yeah.
So the intention there was to try and use reenactment in a way to flesh out moments in time and to bring a greater depth to the storytelling. It's interpretive, but at the same token, it is also based on what you read in testimonies and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's all rooted in reality, but it's a bit of creative license is taken to flesh it out. But now with ABC Killer, there was so much archive, so many newspaper articles, so much. I had audio tapes, I had videotapes, I had a full video confession, I had everything that I needed. But there is always that thing of, there's moments in time that just don't exist, in any real form. When the one victim is telling her story and you're trying to bring those moments to life of what it felt like being lured into the trap. There's the phone calls that really only existed as transcripts on paper. How did those phone calls feel? Like, what did the environment look like? What was the interaction like between them on the phone in terms of what wasn't said? It's those little things. And I feel it's an opportunity within documentary to take creative license, obviously to always aim to remain as true as possible, but to give the audience a bit more of a dramatic experience.
No, totally. And I'd imagine it must be quite like a fun challenge to do those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like making a movie.
Yeah,
it's great.
It gets quite fun.
Exactly.
When did you wrap this for you?
Oh, we wrapped shooting at the end.
But even the edit, when were you able to sort of hand this thing over?
A month ago.
Okay.
A month ago.
And is it still like sitting very firmly in your head? Like, did this sort of plague you a bit? Were there sort of sleepless nights? I'm curious to understand the psychology of a documentary filmmaker, especially trying to get into the mind of someone.
I don't
like
know.
this.
It's interesting. I during the process and everything like that, I'm quite. I don't have any sleepless nights. I don't have nightmares. I don't have anything like that. I can handle the content quite easily. I don't know why. I've got a level of detachment, I suppose. And
I guess the Butty Boer kind of helped.
Yeah,
sort of
but even through that
put
one,
the foundation.
it didn't suffer anything through it. But I definitely do think that there's something that happens after the fact. I definitely think there's a residual impact that you feel, and it doesn't come in obvious ways. It's not like nightmares about dead bodies or anything like that. It's more like a sort of a PTSD that kind of manifests itself in other parts of your life and starts to have an impact on maybe some of your relationships, some of your moods and stuff like that. It's different. For me, it's been like that.
I can't imagine personally being able to be very sexual after getting so in the head of someone who committed a lot of rape. Like, I'd imagine it could be weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like I have a level of detachment that kind of maybe I don't see it as like absolutely real, and maybe that's the way that I just process it, and I'm able to kind of just work through it. But yeah, for me, it's not really like that. For me, it's more like it's affected me in other strange, obscure ways, and I think only now am I like coming to terms with that and trying to work through that and trying to understand, like,
what was
maybe
one of those ways, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, you know what? No. You know what it is? Like, you expose yourself to a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself quite attracted to trauma.
Okay.
And so trauma starts to become quite normalized for you and something that you almost seek out. And when you see a traumatic story present itself, you're kind of drawn to it.
Okay.
Which is the average person would be not drawn to it. They'd be want to protect themselves. Whereas in my case, I'm now drawn to the kind of stuff. And it's a bit of a mental rewiring that needs to take place in order to actually start protecting myself from trauma.
Interesting. There's a TV show on Netflix called Department Q. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Mm-mm.
It's a Scottish limited series. It's all fictional, and they're solving this crime of this missing person. And this main guy, who's the sort of grumpy policeman who's really good at his job, that like quite classic character, is talking with his son. And he basically, I'm going to butcher the writing because it was really good, but he was basically saying, like, I'm trying to protect you, the son, from the fact that this other world exists. It's like it doesn't exist for you, but it exists for me because I'm in it every day. Like he sees the dead bodies and he sees, the killers and is exposed to this. And I just thought that was like an interesting thing that you've seen the other world. Like I don't think about serial killers. I've never had to delve into the mind of them. I occasionally watch them on TV, but like you've it's like a Plato's cave thing. You've seen what's outside, and you kind of can't go back to how it was before.
No, and a lot of people don't understand. No one can understand it. No one can understand. First of all, why you'd be drawn to that, and secondly, like what it's even like experiencing that. And so it's so alien to them, and no amount of explanation can truly help them understand. Because the places I've been, the things I've seen, the conversations I've had, the stories that have been shared with me, like it's dark stuff. There's people in this world that are living very traumatic lives.
Yeah.
And many of us are so sheltered and so hopelessly unaware of the darkness that's out there.
And maybe that's a good thing. Like we don't.
Yeah, I mean, ignorance is certainly bliss, absolutely. And I don't think we should be exposed to those kind of things. But at the same token, like there's some of us that, choose to explore beyond the realm of what we know.
Yeah.
Because the world is multidimensional. It's not just the safety of our suburban lifestyles. It's not just, there's a whole other world out there. And I think some of us are just interested in exploring it.
Yeah. Okay. So I spoke about Department Q. That's perhaps something I can rent you here at the video store. Have you got anything that you've watched recently that you have to return? Here to the video store?
The most recent thing that I've watched is, sadly, was Jurassic World Rebirth.
All right, yeah.
I have no idea why I went to go and watch it. Maybe I got caught up in the hype of some promise that it would be something sort of nostalgic, but it was one of the shittest films I've ever seen. It was atrociously bad, and I find most films these days sort of are borderline horrible unless you're looking at something from like A24 or something more obscure. Like most of the stuff that's coming out these days is just horrible.
I get invited as an exhibitor through the bioscope, so I get to watch these movies somewhat in advance. And I went into Jurassic World going like, it's Gareth Edwards. I think they shot it on film. There was like sort of certain things where it was like this could hopefully be some kind of a reset. This could be This could be interesting. This could be a bit of a big swing. And then I walked out and I was like, it's just another dinosaur movie, literally.
Completely. And some of the scenes in the film are just atrocious. Like they make no sense. They serve no real narrative function, and they just make the characters look like idiots.
Yeah. Well, my one is in that grassy field. I've actually mentioned it on the podcast. In this big grassy field, they see the tails first, but they miss the giant fucking dinosaurs that those tails are attached to.
I know, right?
And it's like, how did you not see the giant dinosaurs?
Yeah, I know. When logic is parked for the sake of the big reveal, it's like, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they should just put all of that to bed, to be honest. I don't understand like why they're still flogging that dead horse. Like it's just Anyway, but
what is what is on the cards for you? Do you want to do more of these kinds of docuseries now that you've done 2?
I probably have one more in the tank that I'd want to do that has got more of the setting is much smaller. It's more contained, and it's got more of a cultural nuance to it, more of a sort of a metaphysical, spiritual nuance to it, but still within the serial killer realm. Also very much based on a true story.
And that's lined up, eh?
Well, I mean, it's in terms of there's access is what I've done some research. I still need to go to the actual place and do more research, but there's access. And I think with any documentary, if you have access, then yes, you've got something to give, so I've got access, which is great. And the only reason I want to do it is because I like the sort of cultural aspect of it, the tribal aspect of it. It's got something a little different in terms of an entry point versus just another telling of a series of events from the perspective of the victims and the police. There's something else to it, which I think is interesting. And then there is potentially talks of there's a drama series potentially in the works. There's some stuff happening, but nothing is anything until it's something.
No, of course.
You know what I mean?
No,
So it's
especially
like,
in the film world where
yeah,
you can't just
exactly.
sort of go off and do something on the weekend. It's like it's all these
No.
big ships that have to be parked in the
and
harbor.
it's a process, and it's political, and it's a slow process. Even though it's happening faster than it's ever happened before, it's still a slow process, relatively speaking. And so, I mean, I don't have anything that I'm starting to shoot next week, but I definitely have something that I'm interested in doing that I need to start sort of putting a little bit more effort behind to get it going. But I think I just want this one to drop. I'm hoping audiences respond well to it. I'm hoping they find the story interesting and the way the story's told interesting. I think we lucked out in many ways. I think people won't necessarily know this from watching it, but a lot of the locations that are used in the reenactments are true to the story.
Yeah.
Like they're actually the locations that shit happened in, so like, whether it's the Star, which still exists today, but as a shell of its former self, and, places where certain events in the story took place, like the Germiston train station, where he was arrested. Even the High Court in Pretoria opened its doors to us.
And it probably looks the same as it did in '94.
Pretty much, that's always the surprising thing for me, and it's the second time it's happened where, like I've been lucky that I go into these spaces decades down the line, and they still carry a look and a feel and a feeling that is of that time. And it's obviously, but obviously given the tone of the stories and stuff, these places are largely run down, or they don't look as new as they would have back then, but it serves the narrative. Those textures and those sort of tones and stuff all serve the narrative.
Where, speaking of bad movies, or coming from the conversation of bad movies, where do you think in the sort of serial killer genre, someone's done it right? Either a movie or a series. Did you also want to watch some of that stuff, or have you stayed clear of that stuff?
No, I mean, I've watched pretty much everything that's ever come out about serial killers in terms of films. I've always been interested in the genre, so that's always been a thing for me. But if I think about,
where do you think they've done it right?
I mean, I think the best. I mean, and I think it'll always be the best. And I don't think any other serial killer film. Oh, maybe something Scandinavian would come to mind, but I think the most classic sort of mainstream example of it done well was obviously Seven. That's the best example of it. Yeah. Everyone says that because, I mean, it was like, given that it came out 30 years ago, like it still remains like the look of the film, the way it's told, and how little of the actual, you don't really see any of the killing. The only time you see anyone get killed is when the dude gets shot at the end, but that's not even, there's a lot of power of suggestion in that film. Yeah. Whereas you're seeing the aftermath of something, which I thought was a very interesting choice,
Did you know that Brad Pitt had it in his contract that they couldn't change the end?
No,
it had to be Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
It had to be, yeah. And I mean, those are brave choices to make, especially back then, But again, I think it stands the test of time. And like people actually want to go further and further towards the macabre. They don't want the darker side of what happens, because I don't think we need to kind of like sugarcoat anything.
Yeah. You are currently based in Cape Town?
Yes.
Did you spend any time in Joburg?
I'm from Joburg. I grew up in Johannesburg, so
Okay.
I spent the first 18 years of my life there, in different parts of Joburg. So.
I am piecing something together. Did you go to Bryanston High School?
Yes, I did for a time. I went there for like a year and a half until I was asked to leave.
You were one of the Jasons.
Yeah, I think there was two of us.
I was in your grade.
No way.
Yeah, Russell.
Russell.
I've just been piecing it together in my head over the course of our chat.
I was friends with Anthony Smith and Carrie Smith and
Yes.
Ricardo Vitali and Gareth Place and John Whitehouse and all the degenerates, dude. We were like we were all the weed smoking like degenerates with the pants below our ass. Like we were those guys, the skaters.
It's all coming back to me. There were
Oh shit!
two Jasons that arrived one year, and I actually spent more time with the other Jason, which was Jasyn
Which one was
Hoffman.
Jason Hoffman? I don't remember him. I remember Jason Daniels. He was in a year above me. He was this crazy like British guy. And then I remember this other guy called Jason Lang that was in my year. And he was like, he went on to become like an MMA fighter and something like that. But he was also a skateboarder. But oh shit, were we in the same class or just the same grade?
I think we were just in the same grade. I don't think we really hung out or spent much time together. But
So are you 40 this year?
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Big 40.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Me too. I turned 40 like last week.
Okay, for me it's next month.
Well, oh yeah, welcome, dude. Welcome, bro. But how crazy is that? Small world. Man.
Yeah,
Small world.
no, totally.
Small
We've
world.
got a conversation we have here at the video store, which is your four great loves. We don't have to go through all four, but these are the movies that came to you at certain times in your life, and
Sure.
we have a high school crush film. So I'm curious, at this point where you were skating and smoking weed and perhaps not pulling your school
High
pants
school crush
all the
film.
way up, what kind of films were you watching at that time?
Are you talking about in high school specifically?
Yeah, a film that came to you in high school that was like,
Oh, I mean, obviously The Matrix, dude. Jeez, 1999, bro.
Yeah.
Damn, what a game changer. That was a game changer for me. Like, I loved that film. And it was so
It was a
interesting
good film.
because we started high school in 1999 and we ended in 2003. And that's when the next couple films came out. So it was like this trilogy that lived with me through those 5 years. So that was obviously like a big thing back then and such a revolutionary series of films. But yeah, I mean, I'd say those were probably, quite influential. But then obviously, other things started to pop up as well around that time. If I think back to then, geez, what else did I really enjoy? I was watching quite a lot of anime back then as well. Quite a lot of like Japanese anime films. And then I was also watching quite a lot of like Perfect Blue and what else, man? Like a whole bunch of stuff.
Perfect Blue is the Satoshi Kon film, right?
Yes, yeah, and it's the one that inspired some of Aronofsky's work.
Some of Black Swan, hey?
Yeah, you see some of the shots in there. You also see them in. I mean, it's in. He uses that shot in multiple films. He even has it in Requiem for a Dream.
Okay.
Requiem for a Dream, where she screams in the bath, is also something that came from
Perfect
that
Blue.
film.
We're going to get a new Aronofsky this year.
Yeah, we are. That's the one with what's his name?
With
Elvis.
Austin Butler.
Austin Butler, yeah. It's interesting tone. It looks like it's got a bit more of a comedic tone to it. Like a dark comedic tone, which is different for Aronofsky. He doesn't really play in that space much. So it's interesting that he's kind of going that way. Similar to there's a new P.T. Anderson as well.
That also looks a little like fun,
yeah, it's
with
like
old
almost
Leonardo
like
DiCaprio.
Exactly. It's like got a bit of a feel of what he was. I mean, he has played in that space a couple times, Inherent Vice kind of was like that. And obviously Punch Drunk Love was a little bit like that. And
We should have spent more time together in high school because I struggled in the sense, not struggled. High school was perfectly fine, but I didn't really have people with similar interests to me. The guys that I got to know at the start of high school, by the time we got to matric, were all first team rugby players. But I wasn't.
Those people.
But I wasn't. They were nice enough dudes and friends of mine, but I was the one quoting movies and them going like,
oh,
what
dude, I mean,
what are
that
you
just
talking
shows you.
about?
I mean, I grew up in the cinema, dude, like literally only child, largely being just put in front of a TV and watching films and stuff. That's kind of how I learned so much about life. It was just through cinema. So here we are.
When did it click that you wanted to go into production? Did you go to any kind of film school?
No, I never went to film school. I'm completely untrained. I always wanted to in some capacity as far back as 2003. And it was always sort of a gestating thing. And then, when I moved to Cape Town in 2008, I kind of slowly started getting into it. And by 2009, I was making content. So it was like, something that it was just a passion. I don't think you can be taught how to make film.
No,
I
I
don't think.
agree. Having done film school, I could firmly tell someone, listen, you don't need it, because what you could learn on a day on set could be worth more than 4 years of film theory.
Completely.
But
I mean, what's nice about film school is that you can make mistakes there. You can make mistakes. You can make and you make friends and you make crew that you could potentially go out into the world and make stuff with, which I think is because it's such a collaborative sport. So I missed out on that. So I had to largely cherry pick people out of an existing industry and ask for favors and stuff like that, and put my largely fund my own projects. But I think the most important thing is to be super passionate about it and to know that it is going to ask everything of you to make it. This is not one of those things where you can half-ass it. You're either in all the way or you're not, because the likelihood of success in this industry is so small that if the only way you're going to make it is if you go 150% all in.
Totally.
And you sacrifice a lot to do it.
Yeah. Halfway through film school, or near the end, I realized there was a gap in exhibition. There needed to be a space for us to screen all these movies that we were making. It was still in an era of this kind of monoculture where there was still the shopping mall cinemas only, and there was only 10 spots, and they'll bump the South African film after a week to make space for Spider-Man. And so there needed to be something else in Joburg. And
completely. And I think what you brought to Joburg is what Cape Town has had in the form of the Labia.
Yeah, and Cape Town's had it since the 70s. The Labia's gone strong since then. And so, no, we knew we needed something. And it was so empowering in that moment to go, fuck, if we pull this off, like, it could be us. Like, we could be the ones that do it. So, and that took, everything. That took the 150% that you speak of. But
no, 100%, dude. And exhibition is everything. I mean, everyone wants to be able to sit and watch their project on a big screen. That's the dream, dude.
Yeah.
That's the dream, and they don't often get that opportunity. And it's a dream that's fading with this, with obviously what's happening in the on-demand space and streaming and everything like that. But it's a dream that has to be kept alive.
No, sure. And there is still a space for it. Like when something like Sinners rolls around, this new Aronofsky, even something fun like the Toxic Avenger that's coming out. You want to watch it. You want to watch it in a big shared space. We've just recently done screenings of a visual album from the band Turnstile, which is this like kind of more hardcore punk band. And it's just filled the room with people that just know that everybody else in the room is going to be a fan of this particular band. And how cool is it that we all get to hang out in one room? And
but it's cool that you've got a space to exhibit, sort of different things like that. You know what
totally.
I mean? It's not just the mainstream.
And that's what it's all about. Like, anytime someone says, I just want to build a community for this particular kind of thing, I'm like, we're in. Let's do it.
Totally, dude. That's so cool that you've got that space. I think some of my stuff has actually been screened there in the past through different festivals or something like that.
Oh, cool.
What festivals screen at your cinema sometimes?
For work that you're doing, like possibly something like the South African Indie Film Festival. They always had really cool
one. Yeah,
stuff.
I know that one.
If it was more,
and what about Josie Film Festival?
Yeah, so we did the Josie Film Festival for many years, and that was a very cool, like more grassroots effort. Then there was the Joburg Film Festival.
The Joburg Film Festival, that's a different one, yeah.
Yeah, that was a much bigger scale thing with multi-choice that has since taken the last few years. But many years ago we did the Josie, which was I kind of enjoyed the Josie a bit more because it was a bit more Yeah, that was Lisa,
right?
Lisa,
yes. And I did. I had a couple of my documentaries screened like at those. Yeah, no, okay. I remember that. Yeah,
magic. Yeah, and then there's Encounters, which is the documentary film festival, and we've just had that.
Of course. Yeah. Okay, so you guys handled the screenings up in Joburg. Encounters.
Yeah,
cool.
and when it comes to these festivals, it's actually quite a dream that I don't have to think about the programming. I just give them they book the days and then they just fill them. Awesome, and it's always cool to see what they bring, and they often pick a documentary. More often than not, they'll have picked the film that'll win the Oscar the next year. Like usually that's the case.
Tell me something. Whereabout are you guys?
We spent our first 10 years in Maboneng, which to
Yes.
speak in Cape Town terms was a little bit like going to Woodstock, but Woodstock that then turned into Long Street. So when it
Yeah.
was like too loud, too many cars, it felt like a scene from Fast and the Furious. Unless we were actually screening Fast and the Furious, we were in the wrong place as a cinema because
I hear you.
our like Danish cinema retrospective with the Danish embassy was never going to go across the street to the deep house music cocktail bar, and they were never going to come and watch movies at us. So we had to make a call. So we're now at 44 Stanley.
Nice.
Which is a really special spot.
Lovely.
And it actually
44 Stanley, yeah.
it
Cool.
feels a little Cape Town because you've got these beautiful olive trees and these fountains, and it's like
There's a
quite
bunch
serene.
of really nice, like, sort of boutique fashion
yeah
places there as well,
Yeah,
right? Like
everybody-
local labels and stuff.
everybody's boutique, including us, which is that you're not necessarily a household name, but what you do well. Whether it's like linen or vinyl records or coffee or brunch, or in our case, cinema. And
I'll definitely come and check it out the next time I'm up there, dude. I'll
no,
definitely,
please let me know.
pop in.
It would be lovely to have you.
I'd
man.
lovely to go and watch something there.
Yeah,
I'll
we've-
definitely make an effort.
We're very proud of our projection. I think the first few years, Joburg was always like, let's just make it work. Let's support them. It's cute. But now, like, the idea has been like, we want to make the best projection possible. As we've seen other cinemas, not necessarily be able to afford the lamp upgrades and the servicing. And I've sort of very proudly, done everything I can to make our projection like the best and the brightest and the crispest, and take it real seriously. So yeah, it'd be lovely to have you come and
Amazing.
visit us.
Amazing.
Cool.
Sweet, dude.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the chat. All the best with the rollout of this show. I'm sure it's going to be really well received. It's the one. It's the one in terms of serial killers. So it's cool that someone like really got to tackle it properly.
Yeah. I mean, we've done the best we can. It's 3 episodes, an hour each. It's all dropping at the same time on the 22nd of July, so it's going to be sort of like a box set or a binge watch, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's about as comprehensive a telling of the story as we could have told in that amount of time. There is quite a lot of meat on the bone, but we've covered quite a lot of it, and I'm really hoping that not just true crime fans kind of dial in to check it out.
Lovely. Thank you, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, dude.
I appreciate
Appreciate you, man.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Take it easy, man.
Cheers.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, great chat. And very cool that I worked it out. We went to high school together, but just for a little bit. And very cool to see what he ended up doing with his life. And it seems to be something he's doing very well. So appreciate his time and appreciate you guys having a listen. We've had lots of directors on the show, all of which could be seen in our home base, which is thevideostore.co.za. We got links to some of the other guest episodes, so you can go and have a look there. But thank you for listening. We have ourselves another guest episode coming out real soon. The film Lucky Fish, which is just opened up the Durban Film Festival and will be coming to cinemas around the country soon. So please come on back for that. All right. Thank you for listening, and we will see you again soon. Cheers.